Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Hello and welcome to Better on Draft, episode 368. We will be talking to Adam Ross of Twin Span Brewing later, but first, I am one of your hosts. I'm Rob, and today I am drinking a Prairie Bomb that I had from a growler, so I don't have the beautiful bottle that it came out of, and it also means I get to pour myself a great big glass. With me today, I have guest host Ed. Hey Ed, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you, man?
What are you drinking?
Today I got two. I have Dark Horse's Crooked Tree, classic one out of Marshall, and then also have One Well's Riptide, which is their hop water. So trying to just pace myself, balance with some hop water, and enjoy some IPA.
The last time I saw you was at Dark Horse, and
it was. So I thought, coming on here. Normally, I'm not on the podcast like this, so I was like, "Oh, when was the last time I saw Rob?" It was at Dark Horse, so I was for that reason. So,
well, welcome, and with us today, as I said, we have Adam Ross of Twin Span Brewing. So, hello, Adam. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking one of my own. I've got our Lager Dam 14. It's a pre-prohibition lager. Pretty easy way to start the night.
Which sounds, yeah, you're okay. If you're just starting, I'm starting with the bomb. So I went into the
hey, you do you. It's Friday.
That's right. Yeah. So Adam, who are you and where are you from and why would you be on the show?
Wow, that's a deep question.
Yeah.
I'm the one of the founders and one of the owners, but the only head brewer. Really the only brewer at Twin Span Brewing. I do have a cellarman. We are located in the Quad Cities, Bettendorf, Iowa. And if you don't know where that is, and I wouldn't fault anyone for not knowing where that is, the Quad Cities is really like 9 towns that kind of grew together right along the Mississippi. The Mississippi cuts our city right in half. We're on the eastern edge of Iowa. If you really want to get exact, we're like if you fly into Chicago, you get on the highway 2 hours west. We're right there. So we're in a interesting part of the country in that you might not know us as a destination, but we're pretty close to a bunch of brewing cities. And having the Mississippi right there, we get both east and west distribution. So why am I here? It's because I ran into you, Rob, at CBC this year.
Yes.
You were hanging out with Greg McGill, our Kiwi brewer friend, who I met for the first time, same time I met you, through another podcast. That host was like, "Hey, you should meet up with this guy," and so I did, and we shared a few tiny beers, and
yeah.
And then you said, "Hey, you want to be on the show?" And I said, "Yeah, I love talking about beer."
So that was my first craft brewers conference, and I'm curious, are there always that many samples on the show floor like that?
Yes, that was my fourth, and it was actually probably the most chill. Like Vegas was last year, and that was weird, weird vibes. It was good. It was just weird. Mm-hmm. This one was. And the ones prior to that, we were still kind of feeling the pandemic and people were just kind of getting out of the house and trying to remember how to interact with people. But yeah, the samples were all over the place. The glass was a little smaller. The first 2 years I went, they gave you a full pint glass for samples. And some vendors would give you more than just a taste. And you saw a lot of people taking naps in hallways and people just in rough shape the next day. So this was good. The samples were everywhere, but they weren't too much.
Well, excellent. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed Indianapolis. If that was your first time,
it was my first time there, and it was fun. It's another Midwest city, so that's not a slam against it by any means. Born and raised in the Midwest, it's just feels like another hometown.
Yeah, they all feel like home. if the Midwest city is your home. I have a couple quick questions about the Quad Cities specifically. And so that part of the Mississippi, does it have river bluffs, and are you on one?
River bluffs? It does have river bluffs. We're not, the brewery itself is not sitting on the Mississippi. We're a good probably 3 miles away.
Okay.
You can actually, we're on Interstate 80. I believe we're the only brewery you can see from the interstate between Chicago and Des Moines. I mean, we are right there on it, so we're easy to get to. And it's just a few more miles away is the Mississippi. Why do you ask about river bluffs? That sounds like a leading question.
No. I just spent a bunch of time in Peoria, which I mean 2 nighs.
Yeah, we're not far away from Peoria. Just go another hour up the road, and we're.
But I enjoyed, wandering around on top of the bluffs and just looking out because you get a vista. I live in Indianapolis; it's very flat. We don't have stuff like that.
So I've lived all over Iowa, but I've lived in a couple of river towns on the Mississippi, and including where I currently live here in town. I really love everything about river towns and the bluffs. In all honesty, I love that it gives some texture, some geographical change. There's always a ton of history. It's a different vibe in the river cities. A little more, maybe a little more blue collar, but people seem to stick around when they move to one of the river towns.
Yeah. Okay. We touched on your tap room and your brewery. Can you walk us through what it would be like if we were to visit it?
Yeah. If you give me a heads up, I would be there and say, "Hey, welcome."
I don't mean that part, but that is well.
Yeah. No. We are. So we just had our 5-year anniversary.
Hey, congratulations!
Yeah, congrats.
We were going to open in the same week the government declared COVID a pandemic. So our real anniversary date is May 9th. It was at that point where we had beer in tanks and no one knew what was going on. And we're like, let's just get this thing open. We built the building that we're in. We built it around the brew house. I don't think I could remove the brew house if I wanted to without tearing down a wall or taking the roof off or something. We're in this little community, about a square mile community that's separate from the rest of the Quad Cities by, you can see the cities off to the edge, but we're kind of on this island and it's all new development, all within the last 5 or 6 years. It's very much focused on this giant indoor sports complex that's right next to us. And then they built another one nearby, and then they built a Top Golf type place, and there's like athleisure wear company, there's like physical therapy rehab place right next to us, and then there's a brewery. And so like when we set up, we were in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there was like empty cornfields around us, but we knew all these projects were coming, and we knew that the community would grow up around us. And so we're constantly being told like, "Oh, you guys lucked out so much at that location. There's so much growth." And we're like, "No, we just did our homework, and we talked to developers. We knew what was coming." And so yeah, first thing you see when you got off the highway is there's like another hotel being built. There's all these places being built. It all looks super brand new. It's very pedestrian and biking friendly because there's constantly like little league tournaments and kids going everywhere and their parents shuttling them around. So it's a very active community. Feels very self-enclosed. It's a little touristy. People travel from quite a ways away to go to this sports complex. I mean, I know we've gotten people from 7-8 hour drive away that have to come with their kids and come here. So it's kind of self-contained. Our building itself, we're a brew pub, so we have a really big dining room. We have a really big patio. We knew that would be important to have an outdoor space, and it was invaluable because we designed and built the thing right before COVID hit, and people took a really big interest in eating and drinking outdoors. So that was really fortunate for us. We even have an outdoor bar We have a huge garage door that opens and connects the indoor bar and the outdoor bar. It's a very open space. We're as often as we can, we have the garage door and the windows all open. And so it's, super, just a lot of glass, a lot of modern industrial. We have a cornfield across the street for now. So, I mean, it's an odd vibe. It's kind of modern, but then you're also look out and you can see a guy in his John Deere tractor go by sometimes in the year. And we're still in a city.
Yeah, where I went to high school, pretty urbanized, we're suburbanized, I guess. But across the street from my high school, pretty much up until the year I went there, was a cornfield, as far as I can remember. So, yeah.
I was gonna say I'm clicking around on Google Maps right now, and Google Maps is not doing that part of Iowa any favors because it's all still a cornfield. Like if I click on I don't even know what the layer is or whatever, but the hybrid one or the terrain one. Well, I guess like if I click on this other one, sure. But if I'm looking at the satellite one, it's just a cornfield.
Yeah.
Where it has like the little like pins about where things are located, but it's all just a corn.
Yeah, Street View, you can find us. You can see us.
Cool.
But Satellite View, for whatever reason, they don't update nearly as often. And sidebar, I love playing the Microsoft Flight Simulator, and they use Bing satellite imagery. That's even more out of date. So, like, I'll play with my kids. I'm like, I'm going to go find the brewery, and then there's just cornfield. Or 5 years later, there's just cornfield.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, I'm going to Google where this is because, being from Michigan, it's not a place that I've traveled to or been to, but you just followed us on the Instagram. So if I'm ever out that way, I'll for sure hit you up. But yeah, I was just like, this is just cornfields. So I thought that was
and nothing wrong with cornfields. As someone who I grew up just up the road from Field of Dreams where they filmed.
Okay.
I grew up like in the middle of a cornfield, and there's some pictures of me as a kid where I look like a child of the corn. I mean, it's and I work it into the beer. I own it. There's Iowa grown corn in this beer.
Very nice.
It's a crop. It's not a vacation destination to go hang around cornfields, but
there's been a lot of good ideas, good times. I was gonna say really quick in regards to corn, I was doing a little bit of clicking around on Instagram and your website and whatnot, and I noticed that you did a collab with I think it was the local theater. Can you tell us about that collab that you did with the local theater chain?
Yeah, it's an independent movie theater it's downtown Davenport. So Davenport has this really cool arts and like counterculture vibe. We get a lot of big bands showing up and playing in small venues, like a lot of times unadvertised because of where we're located. And then right in this little neighborhood that's got all this history with pre-Prohibition and during Prohibition, they opened an independent movie theater, Last Picture House, and one of the owners is and I might be misspeaking here. I know for sure he wrote A Quiet Place, and then I think he directed Heretic and wrote on that. So he's got a local connection, and then moved back here and opened a theater, and just been really cool addition to the Quad Cities. My cellarman and I, we've been down there. We hang out there. You wouldn't guess this, but a movie theater has a really fantastic bar. Like they do fancy, really talented upscale cocktails, and they have a great local beer selection. And so we're in there hanging out, my cellarman Austin and I, and at one point they say, "Hey, we have this rooftop bar. Our rooftop bar and theater. We want to have like a dedicated beer for the summer." We know, and they really liked our products that we've been selling to them. So we sat down and talked, and first thing they wanted was a Swedish fish beer, which I thought sounded disgusting. But as I talked to more and more people, I know an awful lot of people now who really love Swedish fish. So that might have to happen. But I was like, hey, this place is known for their popcorn, and they're really proud that it's Iowa grown corn. I said, I want to make a popcorn beer, and not, butter and all that stuff that doesn't belong in beer. But I had heard that popped corn is just another method of starch conversion and getting a beer ready for brewing. Off Color in Chicago, they had a beer that I had once that had popcorn in it as well. So I knew it could be done and knew it could be good. And so we brought my front of house manager's, her mother's air popper from like the 70s. And it ran continuously for about a week, popping what ended up being like 3 50-gallon bags of popcorn that we then, the guys from the theater came and we all mixed it into the beer. And I had wrote it off as just being essentially a gimmick and a curiosity to see how it would act in the beer. It contributed flavor and mouthfeel and a haze and all these other things I just was not expecting. And it's a really tasty beer, one that is challenging because it's such a, you could anchor the person that's drinking it into thinking it's popcorn. But I've had a couple of people where I just say, here, try this. And they're like, oh, what is that? It's a little flavor. And I tell them popcorn and they're like, oh, okay, maybe. But so yeah, it was a really fun beer to make. And I absolutely love, I think our reputation of all the breweries in the area is we're one that will try something weird and eclectic or historic and just will run with it. All those beers that make other brewers kind of maybe cringe up a little bit and say, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I want to brew everything.
That's awesome. Do you think you could loop, and I was looking at your beer portfolio on your website, do you think you could put in, what is it, Lunar Cat, maybe have a spin-off with the Swedish Fish and then play into like a cat fish type of
That's
thing?
an idea. I was thinking about adding some Swedish Fish to our lager.
Yeah.
We did a single keg of that, and some people liked it. But yeah, I might have to try that. It's lingonberry is the flavor of Swedish Fish, and I don't think I've ever eaten a lingonberry, but I could see how that could play with the cat.
If you went straight to the fish in the beer, I think that would be an awful cleanup.
That would be, yeah. There's we have flavor houses we could go to.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, though, I have added oysters to beer. I do that regularly. I've added bacon, and one batch turned out really good. One batch not so much.
Was there anything with the fat?
Yeah, was there anything else with the bacon? Did you like pair it with?
Yeah, it was maple. So we had maple syrup and Iowa. Yeah, it was Iowa made maple syrup, Iowa grown and butchered bacon, and the one batch didn't turn out so well. The fat rendering I don't think went off as well as it could have. The other batch, the batch that turned out really well was a much smaller one, where it's a lot easier to manage the way the bacon was cooked, and you really do need to go about as low as your stove can go. Put the bacon on a rack, don't let it sit in the fat, and then just give it, I don't know, it was like 3-4 hours, just as slow as you can go, and then you just get all that flavor and none of the headache of all that bacon fat.
How was the popcorn cleanup after that beer batch?
That was super easy. I had probably one of the faster lautering runs. I had all these home and pro brewers telling me like, you're crazy. The kernels are going to mess up your false bottom and all this stuff. And I said, well, maybe I've had to climb into my mash tun and clean it out before with my hand. So I'm like, I was ready to do it that day. No, it was super easy. Not a single problem with any of that. I mean, the popcorn more or less dissolves. Okay. Maybe if you had a ton of duds. I know we had some, unpopped kernels.
Right.
Maybe that'd be a problem, but.
And so as far as your brew house goes, and I know we talked about, it's kind of like in the middle of a cornfield. You have all this space and everything like that. So, and if you're able to get down into your mash tun too, how big is your system?
Well, I didn't say I had a ton of space. We are absolutely out of space, as a lot of brewers are. We have a 15-barrel brew house. Most of the time, I'm brewing half that, so 7.5. And then our core beers, which we have too many of. I think we have 6 right now that I claim will always be on tap. I do the full 15s on that. And that's growth. We've had growth every year, production growth. So the first few years, because our system was so big, I went towards lagers right away. And because 15 barrels of a hazy, that's pretty hazy IPA. That's risky if you're not moving product. 15 barrels of a lager. I mean, lagers for the most part just get better with age. So we were one of the first in the area to just, and still kind of one of the few to go really heavy into lagers, where about at any given moment, maybe half our taps are lagers. And I have lagers I don't even call lagers. Our West Coast IPA is technically an IPL, but those don't sell. So it's a West Coast IPA.
It would make sense if you're surrounded by sports venues and things to have a bunch of lagers on tap too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I love lagers. Any day I drink one.
I was on a biking adventure yesterday, and that was what I was drinking at the end was lagers.
Right on. Yeah.
Okay, you said you're a full brew pub. So can you talk about your kitchen?
Yeah. So I'll give you a little history of how we opened. I was working a corporate IT job, and I started studying for my Cicerone certification, and I would do that over lunch break or whatever. And I had a couple people. One guy I had worked with in the past came up to me and he said, "Hey, would you ever open a brewery?" And I said, "No." That's crazy. I mean, like, yeah, and anyone who's homebrewed wants to open has thought about it, but I'm like, realistically, no. I got this good job, corporate job. I'm gonna do that. He kept prying at me, and eventually he's asking very specific questions, like, well, if you were to, where in town would you open it? And eventually he's like, yeah, I'm gonna open a brewery. I've got one other partner. We need someone to bring in the beer expertise and make the beer, and we got to talking, and they said they want to do a food program too. And I said, the only way I'm going to do this is if we put as much time and energy and investment into the food as the beer, because I'd seen too many breweries that either didn't do food or they did it as an afterthought. They just threw in a frozen pizza or whatever. And I had small kids. I still have the kids. They're just not as small anymore. And I'm like, we need to be family friendly. We need to I want this to be more gastro pub than just beer. I think that's how we were going to stand out. And so we did it. We probably, actually not probably, I know we sank more money into the kitchen than the brew house, because kitchens are really expensive. And the three of us founding partners, none of us had industry experience. So it was a little wild, a little crazy. I don't think any of us knew what we were really getting into. But we found people who really did know what they were doing. We found a really good chef. We had a consulting company that helped us design a menu and helped us figure out how to open and run a restaurant. And now we are, I think there's most days we're probably known more for our food than our beer, because our food is just so good and different. Like I had some vegan friends visit recently, and they always have their meal at Twin Span because we have vegan options. And then we went around town, and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure one day we went around, I'm pretty sure we can find you some good vegan options. And at least the places I went to that also had good beer, did not. Gluten-free. We have everything can be made gluten-free. it's and then the menu itself rotates every 6 months. We basically rehaul the menu and change it. And our kitchen staff now is such a awesome, smart, passionate group of people that I don't think we have anything on the menu. We've never had anything on the menu that I wasn't also super proud of and proud to serve. And to the point where now that we've gotten a little more well known, we'll put something brand new and unique on the food menu, and then a few months later, we'll see other restaurants in town offer the same thing. So, yeah,
what would be an example of that? Like, what food item have you tried out, and then you're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, so we had this blistered shishito peppers. So our first chef, and really we're only on our second. It's not like there's been a long series of them. He really he came from Mexico City, but he really had a passion for Thai cuisine and Southeast Asian. And so none of them ever want me to use word fusion on anything on the menu, but like they're kind of inspired by it. And so this plate of blistered shishito peppers kind of cooked over an open flame. There's a little bit of heat. There's certainly that they're just whole peppers that had the right tortilla cheese and some seasoning and stuff. We saw. I mean, that's unique enough. That isn't just something you look up a recipe on. We saw a few restaurants replicate that, and now we don't have it on our menu at all. Not because we were sore about it, but it's the kitchen wants to try something new.
Sure.
And when I talk to the kitchen, it's and I've given the speech before where it's like good restaurants and good breweries are closing every day.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not try to be like them. Let's follow your passion, make what you want, and make some risk. Try some stuff that you're not sure people would like, and then I think that the customers will acknowledge that and will follow that. I had one chef encouraged him for maybe years to lingua, cow tongue tacos. Mm-hmm. And he made it, and they were fantastic. They're incredible. That one wasn't quite right. Our community wasn't ready for that.
It's full of baloney.
But yeah, I was so proud that I'm like, that's where I think we need to be, both in the brew house and the kitchen, is try the new stuff. Do what you're passionate about, and people figure that out.
One of the best salsas I ever had was made by a Thai restaurant. I used to live in Elgin, Illinois, which has a huge Mexican population, and they have just an amazing salsa fest every year, where I'm talking the sauce, not the music. And but the Thai restaurant there, she made this salsa that still had the tomatoes and chilies in it, but it had lemongrass and peanuts and other like Thai flavors in it, and it was just phenomenal. She kept it on her menu for a good 6 months after that too.
Oh, sounds great.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, we have Quad Cities is very much a lot of Mexican community and Vietnamese. Davenport was a sanctuary. Davenport, the biggest of the Quad Cities, was a sanctuary city during the Vietnam War, and so there's we've got Vietnamese Buddhist temples, restaurants, schools, and I love Southeast Asian food myself. So can't always talk the wife and kids into them, but yeah, love that cuisine.
So does the food influence what beers you're going to brew or anything?
Yeah, so not so much. It does a little bit in that I don't ever try to brew a beer that would steamroll the food, because I know what we are. We're a restaurant that makes our own beer. I don't want to blow anyone's palate out of the water or give them something so big and heavy and full that they don't want to also eat food. I aim for that. I still do that on occasion. But the one piece of that that I really think about with beer and food is we do a quarterly beer and food pairing dinner. We just did our last one this past Monday, and we planned that for months, to where the kitchen says, hey, this is the theme we're thinking of, and here's some dishes we want to try. And they say, what beers can you bring? And I don't always plan that far in advance, but I'll say, like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have these. We have 18 taps on our tap rail. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have like at least these 10 beers. And then they come back and we work back and forth, and I might change up my brewing schedule or try something new, or like you suggested, take one of our core beers and add a different flavor to it. And then the night of the beer dinner, we've got 5 beers that play really well with the food. And usually a few beer dinners ago, I started doing a beer just for the beer dinner, just a single 5-gallon keg that even at the end of the night, if it's not gone, we make sure it's destroyed. And so I've done some really fun stuff like pulque, which is like to be legally compliant, it had to be a pulque combined with a beer, but that's a wild fermented agave nectar Mexican drink that's usually fermented pretty low alcohol, and then they add herbs or fruits to it. This one was this week. Our beer for the night was a mix of our sour beer, and then I brewed some raspberry iced tea with lemonade, blended that in. And so, food and beer pairing I don't think we're pretentious about it. We always try to be experimental and fun, but it's certainly top of mind for us.
So you do those, you said monthly or quarterly?
Quarterly. We started doing a monthly, and it just about killed us.
Sure.
There's so much planning, so much work.
And then when you do the beer pairings, like, are you there to?
Yeah. So, I certainly flex my Cicerone background for that, since that pairing part was a big part of the test. So I get up there, I kind of MC the event. Every course that comes out, I talk about the beer, the history, why I think it will play well with the food, and then a member of the kitchen staff come out and they talk about the food and how it was all put together. And it's 5 course, usually about 3 hours or so. It's no one leaves thirsty or hungry. Everyone's just having a good time. Halfway through the courses, I take everyone on a brew house tour, which is something we don't normally offer. So yeah, it's a really good time. We sell out every time, tickets, and it's a lot of tickets. And then the next time we have one, about 2/3 of the group are people who were on a previous one.
Oh, so, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What is your capacity at the brew house in terms of seating?
Yeah, someone just asked me that the other day, and that's something an owner should really know. A lot.
I'm not the fire marshal, so I'm not.
Right.
Yeah, right. You with the cops or what? No, it's like 90-ish inside, and then the patio. And the way the patio's set up, it's almost seamless. You know, like we don't have screens, we don't have doors. It just kind of bleeds into it. It gets quite a bit bigger. We constantly rearranging tables because of the sports complex nearby. We'll have groups of people come in and we have a team of 36 people. Can you intimidate us? So
that's money though. So if you have 90, let's say a ballpark 90, no pun intended. Do you have 90 people attend those food pairing, beer pairings every quarter, or is it?
Pretty. We go a little under that. We've thought about increasing the ticket count to full capacity, but we've sized it to the point where most people don't have to share a table.
Okay.
If they don't want to. But I feel like no one would care. Like some of the best beer or wine pairing dinners I've been to, I made friends because we got sat at a table with strangers.
Well, yeah, I was going to say you don't want to be sitting on top of each other, but you also on your end, you want to make sure there's enough beer and food. So I bet you that helps with the tickets. So
sitting at we cap it at 70 right now, and that cuts it pretty close on that 5-gallon keg dedicated for the night. to where this last week I was doing some quick math, and I was telling the bar staff, hey, no more than a 12-ounce pour on this one, because we're gonna run out.
Sure. That's fun though. That's good that you're consistently selling out and you're consistently having people through. Like, what was the theme this past Monday? What was the overall arching like beer pairing food type thing?
Yeah, the kitchen really wanted to do Mediterranean, which so it was, but Mediterranean aren't really known for beer. I mean, the Mediterranean diet I'm pretty sure forbids it. So it was kind of just like Mediterranean, kind of a spring, summer vibe. Last quarter was probably one of the best themed ones, and that was it was on St. Patrick's Day, which was a Monday this year. We always do our dinners on Mondays. It was traditional Irish cuisine, but not what most people think of. They think of corned beef and cabbage and boxty. Like, if you've been to Ireland, it's not that. They're on an island, so there's a lot of seafood. There are a lot of potato influences, but we found this like fancy modern Irish cookbook culinary thing, and Kitchen and I sat down with it, and we did all. We had blood sausage was one of the things.
Oh, wow.
We had fish, and it was really fun. It was as being someone who's part Irish myself, I can get a little annoyed when I hear about a new Irish restaurant and it's just there's a cheeseburger with Mick in front of it, or they put cabbage somewhere on the menu. And then at this dinner, the beers were all Irish, we had like our version of Guinness and everything. This, as everyone was sitting down, this guy came up in a kilt and he started playing bagpipes outside. And I had customers and staff being like, Adam, that was so cool that you hired this guy to come in. The thing was, I hadn't. He was he was really good, but he heard we were doing this thing and he just showed up. And so I came out, got him a beer, and he played a couple songs for us. And
that's awesome.
It's a really fun experience.
He just said, "This is my time to shine."
Right. The spirit moved him.
Any other day of the year, if you just randomly show up at a bar with bagpipes and a kilt, they're not a taller stage.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Oh shoot. I had it. Collabs. So you had mentioned that there's other breweries in the area, and you conversed with them. Have you done collabs in the area? You guys, what is the brewing community like there?
Yeah, no, it's pretty great. So Quad Cities is about 400,000 people. We've got 13 breweries that are open right now. And almost all of them are owned and operated by people who came through this homebrew club, myself included. So we're all buddies with each other. We're all super tight. We've had other brewers from other communities come in and they go to visit one of the breweries because they're a friend of a friend. And then we end up going to the other breweries and they're always blown away. And they're like, wow, like the community here is just, no secrets. Everyone knows each other. We've absolutely done regularly. We have a text chain. If someone runs out of like a hop or something or yeast, all of a sudden they're sending out a text to everyone in the thread, and someone probably has something to help them out. They just know next time they'll catch them with something else. Mm-hmm. Collaborations that way, and that a lot of these beers, and we started recently meeting just about every week on a Wednesday. We have a standing invite rotating. If any pro brewer wants to show up or staff or anything, they come and hang out. So we're collaborating constantly in that we're bouncing ideas off each other and helping troubleshoot. We've done a couple formal collaborations too, but it's always a case of like, do we just want to bother slapping our name on the logo? Because we know what it's going to end up being is that, I'm just at your place drinking beer and maybe I helped you unhook a hose at one point. We call it a collaboration. We've done a few. I like the. I've done a collaboration with like a credit union in a movie theater,
Right.
and we have done a couple with the. There's a German American History Museum. We've done a couple with those. We've got another one coming up where they come out and they help. We regularly do homebrew collaborations. Homebrewer comes in and gets to help me clean out the mash tun, and we call it a collaboration. Recently, I have one coming out next week. Actually, though, that's a different kind of collaboration. It's a buddy of mine who he was one of the lead brewers at Goose Island. He was at New Holland. He started their sour program. He's been all over the place, and he's from here, and now he's back in town. And so he and I have been doing a couple. I hired him on to consult for one brew, and now we did another one just recently that'll come out this week. That is low ABV pale ale. So we were aiming for 3% ABV, and I'll take credit for not hitting that target because it's my brew house. I landed at 4. I tried to hit 3, but that's a whole other story. Like apparently yeast and malt just want to become beer. Like you can throw up all these roadblocks and tell them stop at 3, but it kept ripping until 4. Super tasty beer though. And we're calling that one a collab because, yeah, in every sense of the word, he was there designing and helping make that one.
4 is a pretty good one to hit. Like that works as a low ABV beer for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few spots in Michigan that are starting to fiddle with 2.5, which you at 2.5 you got to figure out, are you going for taste or are you going for low ABV? And one of the places that comes to mind does hit it. It's Pigeon Hill. So that's north of you said New Holland was where your friend was at, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's on the west coast, a little north there. But yeah, it's tricky. It's a tricky balance to strike there. So I still think you're good at 4. I mean, what's your average ABV for your other beers? I was looking through your portfolio. You got about 6 or 7 core beers. So are those approachable, drinkable, or are those going to hit you in the mouth and I can only have 1?
No, I always want to brew approachable. Like I said, I don't want to clash with food, and I want to sell you 2 or 3 beers, not 1.
Okay.
So that doesn't mean less flavor or watering it down either. I think it means the right beer for the right point in the night, or the right beer for the right meal. And as much as I love Prairie Bomb, I don't know what you'd pair with that, or what other beers you can have after that.
Yeah, I have a growler, so it's going to be the end of the night.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, so I have brewed so for an average, I would say a lot of beers end up at 5. I have a few end in 4, but like our hazy pale ale, our hazy IPA is 6.5, and our West Coast is 7.5. They were different numbers, and I kind of I don't know if it's OCD thing or what, but I'm like, gotta hit the halves. So I tweak the recipes so they get to that level, or right on the zeros. But we also have our 5th anniversary beer was 14% alcohol, so I'm not afraid of going big. Our smallest was 2.5. I'm sorry.
What kind of style was that hit 14? Yeah,
so we did for a 5-year anniversary, we blended 5 different bourbon barrels together, and 2 of them were barley wines.
Ooh.
2 of them were an extended boil stout, like a 30-hour stout, something dumb.
Yeah.
And then then one was just a regular American stout, different amount of time, all the same bourbon barrel brand. We have a distillery like 2 miles up the road. They're great to work with. So they're all Mississippi River Distilling Company, Cody Road bourbon, which collaborates with Michigan distilleries every once in a while. I know I've seen them do a collab with Journeyman before.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, it's a pretty good bourbon, and for 5 years, we're like, why not just blend 5 barrels together and then do the complicated math, because I don't have an alkalizer of determining what the ABV was, and then doing the important part of the real world testing of let's have a pint of this and see what happens.
What's
14? I feel like 14 is pretty much dead on.
What was the name of that distillery you said? Mississippi what?
Mississippi River Distilling Company.
River,
And
okay.
then Cody Road bourbon is
Gotcha.
their best known, and
Sweet.
they're another fun one where they like to do very strange experiments. They've done like a Bananas Foster whiskey and a whiskey with just Red X malt.
Okay.
So yeah, it's and they do 30-gallon barrels, so their aging time is a little different than some of the bigger boys out there.
I'm just trying to size 30 gallons in my head, but that means that you get to, if you're using their barrels, then that's your targets, right? 30, 60, 90 gallons.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. barrels are 31 gallons.
Oh, okay.
Who
So
knows
it's not that different.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're going to lose a gallon either absorbed into the oak or spilling when you transfer anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's contact time. So like I've done lagers in these barrels, and it's 2 weeks later, you've got this really nice barrel presence. Whereas if you get a 55 gallon barrel, that can take a little bit longer to impart the barrel character.
There was well, I've seen it a few times now where they do the beer in the barrel and then they give the barrel back to the distillery to put something in there, and then that's another way to collab. And those have been, I wouldn't say the beer is prominent in whatever the liquor is afterward, but it's still fun.
Yeah, we've offered, but so much of what they're doing is it has to be fresh oak.
Yeah, bourbon.
So they're really big on bourbon. I know they have in the past done like a one-off seasonal with something else, but yeah, I'm not too precious with the barrels. If a homebrewer, I offer out to homebrewers and stuff too, like, hey, here's your chance to give it another life. And we've been on the receiving end of that. We had our first year anniversary beer. We were able to source a barrel that started its life at Heaven Hill Distillery. Then it went to Toppling Goliath, and it had Term Oil, their mega stout. And then it went to another distillery here in town where they put in the super high proof Kentucky inspired bourbon. And then we put in our Imperial Porter, and it picked up so much flavor on the way. It was, but no one was going to sit there and identify the oak and the
Sure.
vintage or anything like that.
Do you guys
Sure.
do flights? If I were to come in, could I get a flight?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
Right.
Are a lot of people saying no, they don't?
What's that?
It's a long-going debate on the show. The main host against flights isn't here today, but yeah.
So I will say we started out with we have a rule that says you can only get one flight at a time.
Okay, fair enough.
Because we started off, and this is probably more a product of it being in the pandemic. When we first opened, people were for the majority were sitting outside on the patio, and at the time of year when we opened, it was very sunny and warm. We were getting terrible reviews on some of our beers, and they would send pictures like on Untappd, and I could see that it was the last in the flight, and then there was another rack of flights behind them, another flight, and it irritated me to no end. I'm like, you wouldn't order 8 different tiny scoops of ice cream and then get mad that the 8th one was melted,
Right.
and like they've got 8 or 12 beers, because we had like 12 or plus beers on tap, and people would want to try them all. And that last beer is just sitting there dying or skunking in the sun. And so I made it a rule and I just said, no more. We're doing 4. If they want another flight, they need to wait for the server to make her rounds.
Okay.
So I can get the next one.
I kind of like that rule. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's That's a good rule to have for that, to make sure you're getting the freshest beer possible. Although I have on 2 occasions walked into a brewery and said, "Give me one of everything" via flight, and just gotten like a giant flight. So, but I can see your argument about how you have the ones down at the end dying. But I try to drink them light to dark, so I already know that one's got to warm up a little bit or do its thing. I'm not gonna be drinking that one first. So
Yeah, it could be the pretentious Cicerone in me that right glass, right presentation,
sure.
right service, and it's fun to get a like a ski that's just full of holes and has a bunch on there. But that's not. I don't feel like that's doing the beer at the service. So right place, right time for that. Absolutely. If I'm at again like some ski lodge or in the town and people are coming in taking their boots off and there's this big ski with 12 beers, yeah, that's fun. But you're in my 4 walls. You're gonna get 4 little presented beers. If I could, each beer would be at its own temperature and its own CO2 pressure and everything. I can't do that, but
in the perfect world, right?
Different glasses for everything. We'd have 80 different glasses.
Oh man.
We were talking to a brewer from Cozumel recently, and she was saying that it's hard for her to do refrigeration. And it sounds like they do a lot of the refrigeration in the lines as they're serving type of a thing. So I don't know if you can adapt her system to your place to get your temperature control. But
no, I don't think so. We've got about 16 of those lines are all running together in a channel. That's 125 feet. We have a 125-foot long run. Wow. And that means at any given time, 75 ounces are in line, in transit. And I would have to have, I imagine, 16 different channels. Yeah.
So I know you said,
think about it, but no, it's not going to happen.
I know you said you're a lager guy. You really like the lagers, and you're also next to a sports complex.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was zooming through your menus and whatnot, and I saw that for the picky drinkers, you got Mick Ultra. Is that on draft, or is that bottles, or is that the classic can that you see those sports dads chugging on the sidelines?
It's the bottle, aluminum bottles, I think, right now.
Okay.
And yeah, I did the website, so for all its warts and good and bad, it was me.
Well, why'd you go with Mick Ultra then? Why didn't you go with like Miller or Bud or any of those other?
I did the website. The bar manager picked the. No, and the kind of answer your question in there. Yes, we always have something on for the picky drinker. It's the same price as a pint of our equivalent, which is for the most part this beer. And then every time they order it, the staff has been instructed to bring over a little like 2-ounce sample of our beer with it.
Okay.
If that soccer dad wants to order 5 Mick Ultras, he gets 5 samples of the beer. And we have successfully, at least while they were visiting us, more often than not, the next beer they order is not another Mick Ultra. It's
okay. I like that. That's cool.
And there's a reason I don't serve the front of house, because I'd probably say something I regret. But when people get really opinionated about domestic beers, and they say, "Do you have domestic beers?" and I say, "That word you're using, I don't think it means what you think it means, because that beer is made 20 feet away, and we've got big windows. You can see the brew house. You can see me back there sweating, making it most days." Yes, we have domestic beers. So, yeah, it is a picky drinker, and I'm not gonna apologize for that. I totally support local too. If I'm at a brew pub in a town I don't know anything about, I'm gonna get their beer before I go to one of the beers I know is good that I like from someone else. Because again, it's local. That's why you travel. That's why you're there. You don't want to go to Spain or Italy and then go to McDonald's. At least I don't.
Right. Yeah. I was in Singapore, and one of my friends there that I was hanging out with, he said, "We're going to McDonald's. You're going to get a McSpicy, so I know what your spice level is."
That makes sense. As a calibration, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that was the only time I went to McDonald's while I was there.
And I have been to International McDonald's. So, but for equal reasons.
Yeah.
Morbid curiosity.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We ended up at one in Ireland after at a steak on the stone place because people I was with, they didn't get enough food. They were still hungry.
Right. Yeah, no, and that makes me think one of the reasons actually that when we opened Twin Span, why I said let's focus as much on the food as the beer is because beer is food. I don't know where at one point in our history as culture we commoditized beer to where that beer has to taste the same everywhere and that style has to taste exactly like this. Like I had a lager recently that was super skunked, and yes, it was wrong. It was flawed. But in this situation I was at, I was eating tacos. I was on the patio somewhere. I was like, "This is perfect. This is." That beer was not brewed skunky. It
Right.
skunked while it was in the sunny patio with me. But I'm like, "That's great. That's what I want. I want beer to have a place and provenance and." It's not Pepsi. It's not Coca-Cola. We don't need it to be exactly the same everywhere, every time.
So I guess apologies for not asking this before, and maybe you and Rob already talked about this at CBC, but Twin Span. I see on your logo it looks like bridges, and you said that you're around the Mississippi. So can you give us some info about Twin Span and what the heck that means?
Yeah, I'll admit, and I'm not shy about it. I voted against this name. But, I have two partners, like I said. No, we were going to be originally we were going to open in the shadow of this new Twin Span Bridge that crosses over the Mississippi. And right when we were opening, as they were building this new one, and it's such a central thorough point of the Quad Cities that everyone goes over this bridge. They know it. It's got the city's kind of gotten proud of it. There's like lights. They light it up for Pride Month and different things. Kind of boring. But
there's a lot of engineering in that.
There. So we were going to build there in the shadow, and then the long story I don't need to cover here. We ended up about as far away from there as you can still be in town. And so, yeah, we get that a lot. People are like, there's no bridge around here, especially out-of-towners. And then our tap rail, we've designed to look like this, like the bridges as well. The funny coda to that story is that through this, all this development work the city's doing out by us, they've decided to build a pedestrian bridge that crosses over this cross highway. And they made it look like closer to our logo than to the actual bridge. So the city planner came in, he told me this, he had a big grin on his face, and he's like, people are gonna start thinking you named yourself after this pedestrian bridge you're putting up. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Sounds like it's working for you and not,
Yeah. And then another funny part of that, my two business partners didn't know until about a year in that we were open that I am myself a twin. I have a twin sister. And so I've had that from family and friends be like, oh, is that a reference to your... We had a beer on our amber lager we called just Amber because that's my twin sister's name. And then, and it's an amber beer. And then my partner was like, let's rebrand. That's kind of boring. And so that beer became Twin Sister.
Okay.
And so Twin Sister is usually in our top 3 best selling. So he might have been right there. It does make it more marketable.
I'm glad that you didn't go after the world's largest truck stop as a namesake.
Oh, me too. That's like not even 10 minutes from where I live here, and I don't understand it at all. I think I've been there once, and it's because I didn't calculate how much gas I needed. Right, it wasn't like a destination.
I did stop there. I was driving to or from Des Moines. I had to do a round tripper. And yes, I did stop there because how can you not?
So you drove right by us. Maybe we weren't open yet, but
you were definitely not open yet. It would have been the teens, early teens.
Everything you thought it'd be, right?
It was. I was surprised. Yes, it is definitely large. That's for sure.
Yes.
We have just hit the 1 hour mark, which means that it's time to start wrapping up. And we end our show with a couple of maybe not beer related questions. That's actually how we started the show this time too. But so maybe not beer related questions, more fun questions. And I will go ahead and give Ed time to think of one if he doesn't have one.
I don't. I always forget you do this.
Yeah, you're right. So I'm going to go with the, I've got kind of a standard one now, but I'd like to know what is the most recent board game that you played and did you win? Card games count?
So my favorite board games are these, they're called the Hunt a Killer. I don't think count as a board game. It's like a murder mystery in a box.
Yeah.
Obsessed with those. I will spend hours and hours on those. I don't know if that counts.
It sure does. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. They come in a box. They're sold in the board game section. They're all like cold case files. Some of them can take an hour. Some of them have taken me literally weeks, where I've like got a murder board set up and I've got all these notebooks full of stuff. And I love it. But yeah, other board games, card games. I mean, my kids and I, we regularly do something. I dominated at phase 10 recently, and to the point where I'm banned from playing phase 10 in this house.
Sad.
It wasn't like I was competitive. I just scored really high points.
There is a game publisher, I guess, the Grand Gamers Guild. They're out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. But they have these little decks of cards. They're really small, but they are basically single play mysteries, but they're good for groups, in groups with kids especially. So you might want to look into those. Grand Gamers Guild if you want to.
I will look that up.
Yeah, my group of gamers, we have had a couple of those, and when we finish it, we hand it off to some other table that's playing games nearby. So
great, yeah, that's what I end up doing with these, is they get passed on to surprising number of people I hang out with are really into murder mysteries. I don't know what that has to say about the brewing industry. They're all adjacent to it.
You do know how to render fat.
Yes. And that caustic could get rid of stuff pretty easy.
You got to listen to something while you're brewing. So I imagine, the true crime podcasts and whatnot are hot commodities. So
right on.
All right, Ed, did we give you enough time?
Yeah, I got one. So random question from Ed is, earlier we talked about, Midwest cities. You talked about Indianapolis, and, I'm up here in Michigan and you're in Iowa. So I guess, what is your favorite condiment?
My favorite what?
Condiment.
Oh, sriracha probably.
Okay.
Or
right.
gochujang. We actually have, maybe I shouldn't say this in recording. One of our secret sauces at the brewery uses gochujang.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is just spicy ketchup.
Right.
Essentially.
Yeah. We do Korean beef bowls at my house a lot, and that is the sauce of choice for it.
Yeah. I didn't answer the typical ranch or where.
That's
leading there.
As a Michigander, I like ketchup. My wife likes ranch. So, then you got these weird people that like mustard. But I was just curious what you like. So
we have an excellent mustard dynasty here in town. The Bochi's mustard family. They make like spicy brown mustard. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, nice.
See, random.
Yeah,
random.
The International Mustard Museum is up in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been there a couple of times.
Yep,
it's worth a visit.
Yeah, great.
All right, well, Adam, do you have anything coming up that you want to mention, that you want to plug? It sounds like you just had your anniversary.
Right.
May was definitely the busiest month. June is looking pretty busy too. We've got we don't have another beer dinner till September, but I always plug those by default. We are hosting the 4th of July celebration here in town, and I hear it's a pretty big deal. I've never actually gone to this one, and they've never had a sponsor before. So we're both, the city and us, are in uncharted territory. But I'm brewing a ton of beer to have like our own, and helping plan our own custom beer experience tent place for that.
Cool.
Yeah, and then the month after that, we were doing a lager only beer festival, August 23rd, in the green spaces and parking lots around us. We're going to have a bunch of the breweries from the Quad Cities. Pretty much everyone is going to be from the Quad Cities, maybe some a few further out. The only rule is every beer that you pour has to be a lager.
Nice.
And it's called Lager Fest.
Nice.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Adam. It was wonderful talking to you again. I had a great time talking to you at the Craft Brewers Conference, so I'm really glad that you've been on the show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
And so I will end our show like we end every show. Whatever you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft.
Better on draft, baby.
Cheers.
Good night.